Greetings. This is Celebration. My name is John Savers. I'm your host, and today we'll continue with our little series on Jews and their culture. Now, for those of you new to Celebration, this is a series which takes a look at people and their cultures and try to get an idea what makes them tick beyond what might already be perceived. In this pursuit, we do look at the good, the bad, the indifferent, bearing in mind Hannah Arendt's comment about the banality of evil. We have thought that looking at the ordinary perhaps would be occasionally worthwhile. The idea, of course, is educational. We are not, of course, able to go forward without touching upon familiar ground. But it's not really familiar ground that we are pursuing so much as the unperceived with an idea of filling in the gaps for people who do not have information which we feel is important here at Celebration. Now, as this particular information bears on Jewry, I have come under some personal condemnation, as many of you might guess. I find it entirely embarrassing because for me to be called anti-Jewish or anti-Semitic by this crowd is somewhat like being called anti-meist. You're an anti-meist, or you're against me. Well, I think it's entirely vain and frivolous, and that is not my intent. My intent is simply to bring forth information which will make this particular people and culture better understood. And although it has been pretty well established, there are huge libraries in regard to Jews in New York, sections that are quite large with nothing but books on Jews. But as a general proposition, it's a subject which is not touched upon by the general television purveyors of programming, nor by the schools, nor by the general magazines, and so forth. We think this is a serious omission given the great importance of Jewry in Western civilization and beyond. So, therefore, we have taken a look, a very frank and forthright look, and it has not pleased everyone. But nevertheless, we do pursue this matter, and in the past we have touched upon certain elements that we thought were important in understanding this culture, tidbits of the people, from whence they came and so forth. And today we hope to look more in the way of the law, religion, and so forth, which have some import on this particular culture, this people. And we also may, I think, inaugurate what might be called a sic et non approach, yes and no. So on that note, let's proceed. It has often been remarked with amazement that a culture so theocratically oriented as the Talmudic should have so relatively little to say of its God. This is a citation from Eustace Mullins, Mullins' History of Jews, page 79, citing Gerson Cohen, page 191, Great Ideas of the Jewish People. Now, in the same vein, bearing in mind that curiosity, here I think we're kind of stumbling on an important area, which is the emphatically material, this worldly aspect, perspective of Jewry. But let's hear a little bit more. Cohen continues, in the ensuing centuries, new Jewish communities sprang up throughout southern and western Europe. While their growth is generally veiled in darkness, they all come to maturity with the assumption of a community structure patterned after the Talmudic type. Everywhere, the Talmudic law became the constitution of Jewish origin. Again, this is a citation from Eustace Mullen's History of Jews, page 79, and again citing Gerson Cohen, Great Ideas of the Jewish People, page 191. Well, now, bearing that in mind, and I think it is instructive, let's hear one citation from an important figure of history. One of the greatest historians of ancient Rome was Tacitus. He wrote of the Jews, "The customs of the Jews are base and abominable and owe their persistence to their depravity. Jews are extremely loyal to one another, always ready to show compassion, but towards every other people they feel only hate and enmity. As a race they are prone to lust. Among themselves nothing is unlawful." This is a citation again from Eustace Mullen's New History of Jews, page 37, citing Tacitus. Now, do these two citations seem to be related? Does not the Tacitus citation somehow call to mind the will of Canaan, which was given at an earlier time? Well, be that as it may, I think that it is clear that Jews have a perception of themselves which is somewhat separate from and opposed to that of others. And with this in mind, we go forward with the notion of looking at things from their point of view and then trying to see how this plays in a practical way. Please attend. Herman Cohen, 1842 to 1919, was probably the most important Jewish philosopher of the 19th century. His major works, ironically, were purely secular as he advanced the basic ideas of Immanuel Kant. Cohen agreed with Kant that ethics had to be universal. Moreover, every ethical act had to, in the end, aim toward the entire society. Moreover, since the goal of ethics is to achieve universal global ethics, we must have some hope of achieving that goal. Therefore, the idea of God as the guarantor of an eternal world and our ability eventually to achieve ethical justice is necessary. Cohen called this religion of reason. He then pointed to Judaism's belief in the uniqueness of God. Thus, for Herman Cohen, Judaism provides the source for religion of reason, namely ethical monotheism. Herman Cohen's influence on modern 19th century Jews was tremendous. His emphasis on Judaism's universal ethics to better the entire world encouraged Jews to integrate into the secular cultures around them as an aspect of their religion. It was legitimately Jewish to assimilate into society so long as the individual's goals focused on social justice. If a Jewish ritual enhanced that ethical imperative, it was important to retain it. If it appeared to contradict the high ethics of religion of reason, it was to be dropped. Moreover, Herman Cohen's description of Judaism emphasized that it was a much better religion of reason than Christianity. Judaism focused on acts, ethics. Christianity was involved in faith. This is a citation from Rabbi David E. Kahn Lippman, The Book of Jewish Knowledge, 613 Basic Facts About Judaism, pages 361-362, Jason Aronson, Inc., Northville, New Jersey, London, 230 Livingston Street, 07647, New Jersey. Well, I think that this is interesting to start out. I think that it does issue from the Reformed Jewish tradition, that therefore it would harken back to such figures as Moses Mendelssohn and so forth. Now, we are in this particular segment, mostly looking, however, at Orthodox Jewry and the Talmudic conceptions which might be found there. However, we do want to bring this forward first, and also we will subsequently analyze this a little bit better to see exactly how this mission fits with the non-Jew, how it would play. But for the time being, let's consider another citation. Our tradition has always emphasized the importance of truth because it is a divine attribute. The Psalms refer to the divine as the God of truth. Our sages stated the seal of God is truth. Pirkei Avot says that truth is one of the pillars of the world, and Proverbs exhorts, remove falsehood and lying far from me. It is a basic Jewish belief that God created the universe with integrity. This is a citation, again, from Rabbi David E. Kahn Lippman, The Book of Jewish Knowledge, 613 Basic Facts About Judaism, and this is page 397. Well, I think at this point we're all pretty much encouraged and could feel a solidarity with these views, but let's go forward. In Judaism, the importance of truth is just as important, if not more important, than the law. It says, Haggadah 14a, that one should judge the truth of the Torah. Most of the time, the truth can be established by the facts. But when it cannot, truth supersedes the law. This is a citation from the Jewish Encyclopedia of Moral and Ethical Issues, Rabbi Nachum Amsel, page 293. Well, people, I think that I have asserted something of the same notion in Fight, Flee, or Laugh and other programs, and have touched in a general way on this idea, I think, in discussing the law and the jury system, too. But let's go forward. In the opinion of the author, however, all these explanations seem to be apologetics for these Talmudic passages permitting a person to lie. Logic dictates that it would run contrary to the Jewish value of truth stated earlier, as well as the spirit of Jewish law, allowing any form of these lies to be put into practice. The Jew must follow in the ways of God, Deuteronomy 13:5. The Talmud, Midrash, Sifra, Shabbat 133, Sata 14a, says that man must imitate God's traits, and just as God is truthful, we must be truthful. This is the biblical basis for the practical laws about not gossiping or not speaking untruths about someone else. Sefer Shmirat Halasan. Introduction, Positive Commandment number 14. Therefore, with all the Talmudic discussions about lying, except for the case of the beautiful bride, there is no Jewish law recorded that a person is allowed to lie to keep the peace or for any other reason. Now, this is a citation from the Jewish Encyclopedia of Moral and Ethical Issues, Rabbi Nachum Amsel, page 295. Well, now, I and the viewers are feeling a little reassured. Certainly, Jewry has enemies. Defamation may, in fact, occur. But let's go ahead and look at this a little further. Cheating is classified in Jewish terms as genaivat dat, which can be translated as stealing someone's thoughts, fooling someone, or receiving undeserved benefit. It is a form of stealing, clearly a prohibition for Jews as well as non-Jews. Hilkot Mikara 18:1. Many students who cheat would never think of actually stealing, But in Judaism, the two are equated. In fact, according to the Tosefta Bava Kama 7.3, cheating is the worst form of stealing. Now, this is a citation from the Jewish Encyclopedia of Moral and Ethical Issues, Rabbi Nachum Amsel, page 107. I like that formulation, stealing someone's thoughts. Unfortunately, it seems that the government is the prime offender here with its relentless spying, MK Ultra, and so forth. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. But at any rate, it's nice to know that someone else shares your view a little bit. But let's proceed a little bit further. Almost 2,000 years ago, a rabbi said that the Torah contains 613 mitzvot, commandments. These commandments became the starting point for Jewish law. Hillel, a sage who lived 2,000 years ago, was once challenged to reduce Judaism to its simplest essence. He answered, "What is hateful to you, do not do to anyone else. That is the whole of Torah. The rest is commentary. Go and learn it." Citation from Rabbi David E. Kahn Lippman, The Book of Jewish Knowledge, page 17. Now, viewers will perceive that there is no mention here of Yahweh, and certainly it is not an equation, so to speak, with Christ's golden rule. Exactly what does it mean, don't do what is hateful to you? Particularly if you have a kind of anything goes attitude, it's meaningless, I would say. But at any rate, we should also bear in mind that certain elements within Jewry consider that Jewry collectively is itself the God Messiah. So with that that note, and one might say go figure, but at any rate, let's proceed a little further particularly with our sic et non approach. Now, we do know, and everybody knows, that there are such people that do not hit the ideal, but nevertheless, we do think it's instructive that it is so common. But please note, the falseness and meanness of the Talmudic rabbis is well illustrated in negating one of Rabbi Hillel's sayings of which the Jews are rightly proud. Hillel was a Jewish teacher who tried to preserve what was left of Judaic traditions after the destruction of Jerusalem. It was Hillel who said, "What is hateful to thee, do not unto thy neighbors. This is the whole law. All the rest is commentary to this law." In a negative form, this is not far from the golden rule of Christ. But notice the Talmudic comment upon it at a later date, Mishnah Sanhedrin 57, where it is written, "Thou shalt not do injury to thy neighbor." It is not said, "Thou shalt not do injury to a goy." Thus, whatever ethical precept is announced by one authority of a general character is converted by another. Judaism boasts of the Hillel doctrine, but tells you nothing of its subsequent retraction by the Talmud, 92-176. This is a citation from Radabor Ray M. Yurevich, The Fear of the Jews Syndrome, Volume A, page 101. Now, furthermore, and in the same vein, please consider, one can imagine how much respect the Talmudist Pharisees would show to persons designated as bastards. You are human beings, but the nations of the world are not human beings, but beasts, states another Pharisee treatise, Baba Messiah 114.6. On the house of the Goy, non-Jews, one looks as on the fold of cattle. Tosefta Erubin 7.1. The Jewish Encyclopedia, in its article on the Gentiles, explains kindly that these were looked upon as non-persons, as little different from animals. The Pharisees held that only Israelites are men. This is a citation from Radabor Ray M. Yurevich, The Fear of the Jews Syndrome, Volume A, page 101. I believe that most members of Jewry are a little bit more enlightened than this at this point in time, probably following more the line of that first citation, which I identified as probably coming from the Reformed movement. But at any rate, we do also have important and I think sinister elements that still exist within Jewry, which should not be forgotten, I think, and I have tried to bring to the attention of the people of Fairfax County truth, fact, law, as I could unearth it. I don't think that there's anyone on the face of the earth who could have done what I've done in the last 5 or 6 years under the stressful conditions under which they were done, and certainly no one would do them even if they could. But I've done it, and undaunted will continue, although there is a growing opposition because there is just this feeling that some things are subjects of taboo and should not be breached. The 1,350 or so anti-Semitic incidents recorded by the Anti-Defamation League last year amount to approximately one incident per 185,000 Americans. In fact, the ADL itself may have been party to such a misrepresentation on the cover of the March 1985 issue of the ADL Bulletin, where a photograph designated desecration of a Jewish home in Kings Point, New York, was a fake. The swastika depicted does not follow the contours of the paneled door and appears to stand out and away from it. It was painted onto a photo or a transparency and then rephotographed. The issue of the bulletin featured a major article entitled Anti-Semitic Vandalism, 2-Year Trend Reversed. The article noted that California, with a population of 23 million, had experienced 99 incidents in 1984, or one incident per 230,000 citizens. Citation from Laird Wilcox, The Hoaxer Project Report, 1991, page 2. Now let me just say in parting that Mr. Wilcox is an academic, I think at the University of Kansas or Kansas State University, and he has accumulated this rather vast amount of resource material on frauds. Now, most of these incidents are on the order of graffiti, verbal altercations, or telephone harassment by kids, and many remain unsolved. A single hoaxer with a can of spray paint or a pocket full of quarters can inflate these statistics considerably. A citation from Laird Wilcox, The Hoaxer Project Report, page 2. Now, in considering these things, one might consider the old Roman expression pro bono, who benefits from such charges, and particularly how do they manage to get such blaring media headlines in regard to these things. In New York City, residents of Co-op City, a massive housing cooperative in the Bronx, found anti-Semitic graffiti and swastikas daubed on 51 apartment doors and walls. The incident received wide publicity, and a $3,500 reward was offered for the perpetrators. Later, 2 Jewish teenagers, whose names were withheld and who had actually tried to collect the reward by turning in someone else, were determined to have lied to police and were subsequently arrested. The 2 youths, aged 14 and 15, have been charged as juveniles with conspiracy, criminal mischief, and falsely reporting a police incident. They are also suspected of other racist and anti-Semitic incidents dating back over a several-month period, all of which have been attributed to racists. This is a citation from Laird Wilcox, the Hoaxer Project Report, page 14. Well, boys will be boys, some will note. Let's look a little further. In Rockville, Maryland, 2 young men were charged with arson for burning a swastika on the lawn of a Jewish woman and her Catholic husband. Gary Stein, who is Jewish, and John E. Finnegan, a friend, were charged with pouring gasoline in a swastika pattern and setting it on fire. According to police, Stein claimed that his buddy did it. Stein's father, Donald Stein, is the funeral director of the Hebrew Memorial Home in Tacoma Park, Maryland. Had Stein and Finnegan not been apprehended, the incident would have been reported as a hate crime involving arson, and neo-Nazis would have been suspected. That's it. We're out of time again, folks. This is Celebration. My name is John Savers. I'm your host. Do appreciate your tuning in. Hope to see you again next time.